The Forbidden Testament, the Book of Enoch and the Watchers.
We all know the story of Noah's Ark, an old man of faith, a giant boat, and animals walking in 2 by 2. We heard it in songs, saw it in cartoons, and learned it in Sunday school. It was always told as a children's story, colorful, simple, almost comforting. God looked down, saw people being bad, and decided to wash the world clean. But that's not the whole truth. We were given the censored version. The truth was hidden in a forbidden book for centuries, buried in the sands of time, and rediscovered in the Dead Sea caves, the Book of Enoch, a text that reveals secrets tradition tried to bury. The flood didn't come just to punish ordinary sinners. It came to erase something far worse, a forbidden mix of angels and humans that created a race of monsters. Imagine for a moment not a world full of wicked men stealing bread, but a world full of hungry giants, impossible hybrids, and corrupted spirits that didn't belong here. That's the story we were never told. And if you ever thought the water fell only to wash away sin, think again. The waters came to erase a genetic mistake, to reset the DNA of creation. Think about the kids' songs we learned, the smiling animals, the rainbow at the end. Behind that picture book story, there was terror, there was blood, and there were shadows that were not human. In the days of Jared, the Watchers appeared. They weren't demons, not yet. They were holy angels, shining guardians sent to observe humanity's progress. But they had free will, and they had a fatal flaw: desire. From the heights of Mount Hermon they looked down. They saw the daughters of men. They saw their beauty, and a forbidden fire began to burn in their immortal hearts. They were tired of lonely eternity. They wanted to feel what mortals feel. Their leader, Samyaza, hesitated. He knew what they wanted was a cosmic crime, a violation of heaven's laws. He said, "I fear you will not go through with this, and I alone will pay the price for this great sin." But the others insisted. Lust was stronger than duty. They would not turn back. They made a dark pact and swore together to rebel, no matter the cost. 200 angels united in corruption. They descended from heaven not as guardians, but as predators. Picture the silence of the mountain broken by 200 voices swearing a curse upon themselves, giving up the light forever. That was the beginning of the fall. And here begins the story the Bible barely mentions in Genesis 6, but Enoch describes in terrifying detail. The Watchers stepped into human life not to guide, but to consume. And with them they brought the seeds of our own destruction. The Watchers took wives, whoever they chose, but this union was not only physical, it was a trade. To seduce humanity, to buy them, they offered the most dangerous gift of all: forbidden knowledge. Azazel, one of the leaders, taught men to forge swords, shields, and armor. He showed them how to pull metal from the earth and turn fire into weapons of war. Before this, men fought with sticks and stones. Now they could kill with iron, efficiently, like an industry. To women, they taught the art of artificial beauty, makeup, and jewelry. But they went further. They taught them witchcraft, spells, and astrology. They taught them to cut roots and mix herbs for sorcery, and how to read the moon to cast curses. Humanity thought it was living in a golden age. They believed they were advancing, but in reality, they were being corrupted. Imagine entire villages fascinated by these new secrets. Men feeling like gods with their swords, women adorned with gold and dark spells. Humanity was being prepared for self-destruction, armed with knowledge they weren't mature enough to control, and every secret they received was an invisible chain binding them to the Watchers. People stopped trusting in God and started trusting in the power the fallen angels gave them. That was the true beginning of the rot. They learned to alter reality. They learned the secrets of the stars, but every lesson carried a hidden curse. From these forbidden unions came the Nephilim. They weren't human. They weren't angels. They were an abomination. Giants of unimaginable strength and endless hunger. The Bible calls them mighty men of old, but the Book of Enoch describes them as 300 cubits tall, towering beings that shook the earth when they walked. At first, humans tried to feed them, serving them like slaves. The giants devoured all the farmers' work. Grain, livestock, and entire herds vanished overnight. But soon the hunger of the Nephilim became monstrous and insatiable. When the food ran out, they turned on humanity itself. They began to eat human flesh and drink blood. They sinned against birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish. The earth became a slaughterhouse. Imagine living in a world where your children could be hunted by giants, where blood ran through the streets like water, where no one was safe from these titans. The text says, "The earth laid accusation against the lawless ones." The ground was so soaked in blood that the earth itself screamed in pain. The Nephilim didn't just eat, they ruled. They became tyrants, false kings, gods of terror. Men worshipped them out of fear, and women trembled before them. They built kingdoms of cruelty, cities of blood, and altars of horror. And humanity bowed not to God, but to monsters. It was then that the archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, looked down from heaven and saw the blood covering the earth. They heard the cry of dying humans. Enoch, horrified, begged God for mercy. Even the fallen angels, seeing the disaster they created, begged Enoch to speak to God for them. But the answer from the throne was clear and terrible. "You have chosen flesh over spirit. There will be no peace for you." The corruption was total. Human DNA was contaminated, and heaven itself prepared for the final judgment. Judgment came. The great flood was not just rain, it was a total cleanup. The skies opened, the waters of the deep burst forth, and the world drowned. The Nephilim screamed as the waves swallowed them. Their brute strength meant nothing against the wrath of the water. The Watchers were chained up, cast into pits of darkness in the desert, waiting for Judgment Day. But here lies the darkest secret, the one that explains the evil in our world today. The Nephilim were half spirit and half flesh. When their physical bodies died under the water, their spirits didn't die. They couldn't go up to heaven because they weren't holy, and they couldn't go to the place of humans. They were trapped here. Those disembodied spirits wander the earth these days. They are what we call demons, or evil spirits, invisible beings, hungry, searching desperately for human bodies to inhabit, to feel the pleasures of the flesh they lost in the flood. The flood erased the bodies of the giants, but it didn't erase their shadows. The Book of Enoch was banned, perhaps because it reveals this uncomfortable truth, that the war never ended. The Watchers are chained, and the giants are dust, but their ghosts remain, haunting us, waiting for their final judgment. Imagine that every war, every act of senseless violence,
Every shadow of madness is the echo of those ancient spirits whispering in the ears of modern men. Now tell me, do you believe the demons walking today are the spirits of the Nephilim, or is there another explanation? Leave your theory in the comments, subscribe and turn on notifications. Join us to uncover more hidden truths, the ones traditional theology doesn't want to show you. See you in the shadows.